The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. SGPN is teaming up with Shady Rays for Shady May. Get 50% off of your Shady Rays using promo code SGPN, and then go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500. And there's still time. We're also brought to you by our Kentucky Derby contest. Winner gets a $100 SGPN gift card exclusively on the SGPN app. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Saturday, May the 6th, currently 11:07 on the East Coast. Here to recap what we saw in the NBA playoffs on Friday night and handicap the two games on the schedule. On Saturday, we have the Miami Heat hosting the New York Knicks in Game 3, as well as the Los Angeles Lakers hosting the Golden State Warriors in Game 3 as well. But joining me to help me break it all down, you guys know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, the NFL Gambling Podcast, the WNBA Gambling Podcast, and of course here on the NBA Gambling Podcast, it's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man?
Man, nothing much. Looking forward to going through the games today. I had a good day yesterday. Ended up sweeping the lock and dog. Had the Celtics -2.5 as my lock, which I can't really say was never in doubt, but Boston led for the majority of the game, so that worked out pretty well. And then I had Jokic triple-double at +280. I wasn't sure how realistic it was because the assists haven't been there, but anytime you can give me Jokic triple-double at +280 when it's been hovering even money for the entire season, I'm going to take that. And he had 30, 17, and 17. It was really just an insane stat line for Jokic, but either way, ended up sweeping. Nice job for the Suns to get the job done by winning the game, but for the most part, the games went the way that I thought they would and ended up sweeping, so can't complain.
Yep, and also joining us here on the NBA Gambling Podcast, he's in playoff mode. It's playoff Lante. Lante, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Not much, man. Doing pretty good. Looking forward to the games today. Had a good night, like Scott mentioned last night. I had a good night as well. Nothing really surprised me, but looking forward to just putting that behind us and getting some more winners on the board today.
Yeah, I think we all had a good day yesterday. I had a good day in the NBA as well. MLB was good as well. So hopefully we can carry that momentum into the Saturday games here for the association. But guys mentioned it last night. Two games on the schedule. Boston gets the job done in Philly. They take a 2-1 lead over the Philadelphia 76ers. They get the dub last night on the road in Philly. The final score came out to be 114-102. Game barely gets over the total. I know it was hovering around 215 most of the day. I think it closed around 213.5. But if you had the over, you want to probably send a thank you present to Tyrese Maxey for fouling for no reason. And then Malcolm Brogdon puts the 2 free throws in to send that game over the total. Another subpar game for James Harden last night, I guess we can say.
That's the word we're going to use.
He was terrible. Let's just say that. And okay. I think I mentioned this as well, as that he left everything out on the floor in game 1. And after that, like, you just knew that he was going to be bad. But he did have 11 assists in the game, but he finished up the game 3 of 14 from the floor. The last 2 games, games 2 and 3, he's been atrocious for the Philadelphia 76ers. Did finish up with 16 points, 11 assists, like I mentioned. Embiid did bounce back after kind of shaking off the rust in game 2. Was only 9 of 19 from the floor, but did go 11 of 12 from the free throw line, and an incredible stomp of the face of Grant Williams last night. Finished up with 30 points, 13 rebounds, and that was pretty much it. Not much else for the Philly side. DeAnthony Melton, again, chipped in with 14 points. He was 4 of 7 from the 3-point line. More importantly, for the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum bounced back nicely for them after having a rough game 2. 43 minutes last night, 10 of 20 from the floor, 27 points, another 23-piece from Jaylen Brown last night, and all 5 starters for the Boston Celtics were in double figures last night. And then Malcolm Brogdon, as usual, off the bench, chips in with 15 points for the Boston Celtics. Lante, I'll start with you. Any takeaways from last night between the Celtics and the Sixers?
Yeah, I just thought the Sixers didn't play with enough energy after that first quarter. The first quarter they actually got down, but got to credit Boston because they made I think they started 6 for 6 from the field, 4 for 4 from three, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of those were contested. So I don't give Philly a lot of slack for that because they were at least trying to defend it. Boston was just rolling at that point. But after the first quarter, when they came back and took the lead, I think it was 27-26 when they took the lead. I didn't see much energy from them outside of Embiid. I mean, Maxey didn't even look like himself. I think he's probably off the hook a little bit because of Harden, how poorly Harden played. But I thought Maxey has to be better. Melton looked extremely good. I thought nobody else gave him anything other than Embiid and Melton, and I think that's a problem. As far as the Boston side, I mean, they just looked like they wanted it more. They were more involved with loose balls. They were more frisky with diving on the floor. So I credit them, and Grant Williams was a good piece to that. He played really good on Embiid, crowding his space. So I thought he played well. Didn't necessarily translate to the box score, but I thought some of the things that he did helped them out a lot because they weren't able to double. And I think Robert Williams being out, I guess we'll talk about that later, but not sure how that affects him going forward or how serious it is. But I know he didn't play most of that second half with that. He had a wrap on his arm, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, man, I thought it played out pretty. I guess I expected the Boston to win, but I didn't think that they would dominate. I thought they dominated the game. And even with Embiid playing as well as he did, I don't think he's still quite there yet because he's just missing a few steps on double teams and going a little bit too later, turning the ball over. But I think that starts with Harden too. But overall, nothing too much to take away from it. I thought it played out pretty much how I envisioned it.
I think there's 2 points in the game where I kind of thought that the Sixers were going to lose the game. Number one was that fourth quarter lineup that Doc Rivers put out there. He had Maxey, Harrison, and Embiid all on the bench to start that fourth quarter. He did have James Harden in there, but Harden was having a very bad shooting game, at least over the last 2 games. He's combined 5 of 28 from the field in the last 2 games. He's 2 of 13 from beyond the arc over the last 2 games. So I think that was an area where I think the Sixers really were going to fall behind. I know Niang made a couple shots there to kind of keep him hanging around, but could have been a different story if he would have started with Harris or Maxey with Harden in that fourth quarter. Scott, takeaways from last night between Sixers and the Celtics?
I didn't really have many takeaways because the game went the exact way that I thought it was going to. I said on the air that I don't think Philly's going to win another game in the series. I think when Boston's engaged and they're actually focused, which I know is a little bit impossible for that team to stay focused, they're the much better team. I don't think Philly's that talented of a basketball team. You have Embiid, who was solid last night. He looked healthier than I thought he was going to look, except nobody else showed up. Harden couldn't shoot, and Maxey couldn't shoot, and that was basically the story of the game. And you had Tatum, who played well, Jaylen Brown played well, and the supporting cast for Horford, who was really good in 3, shout out to him. And the other guys, I just think it's a better supporting cast. But the real story for me in the game was the fact that I just think that Philly's supporting cast isn't that great. And as you continue to look at how these teams match up, I think Boston's a really bad matchup for this team because they can stretch the floor. They have a stretch 5 with Horford who can actually hit some shots now again. Yeah. And once again, I don't think Philly's that talented of a team. I think they were quite fortunate to face off against the Nets in the first round. And I think the Nets were probably the worst team in the field of all the Eastern Conference teams, especially after how good Atlanta and Miami looked in the first round. So I wasn't going to overreact to Philly sweeping in the first round. Going into the series, I thought that you'd end up seeing the Celtics win in 5. Now, I didn't think Philly would win game 1 without Embiid, but I still think they're going to win in 5. I just think Boston's a bad matchup. And if Boston truly cares and if they're focused, I really don't see many, I'd say, alternative play styles or strategies that you can end up using if you are Philly. I just think Philly has to play through Embiid at this point, and that's not good enough. So I'm going to go with Boston to win the series in 5 because I feel like Philly's kind of out of adjustments. Doesn't it feel that way? It feels like they're kind of stuck playing one way, and they're just hoping it works out.
Yeah, it's just really that Harden has to be better. I mean, great game 1,
And
45
Maxey, but
points.
mostly Harden.
Yeah, mostly Harden, right? But I think those two guys have to at least contribute a combined 40 to 45 points for this, team outside of Embiid to have a chance to win this series. I think Philly squeaks out one more game in this series, but I still do think Boston advances because, like you mentioned, that when they are focused, and that's a huge question mark for this Boston team sometimes because we saw it in round one without DeJounte Murray. We saw it in game one of this series as well. I think they'll have a lapse in the moment, and I think that Philly can steal one more. Maybe it's probably game four, in Philly on their home court that they get. But I do think they will all agree that Boston should advance into the Eastern Conference Finals. So,
well, that was kind of my takeaway for Game 3 was that once again I said you cannot assume Boston's going to stay focused.
yeah,
But since they lost home court advantage and they needed to win a road game, and you also had Tatum in the building, who thinks he deserved some series MVP consideration. He did not, but he thinks he did in his own mind.
Yeah,
and the whole team's sitting there watching Embiid give his MVP thank you speech. There might have been an extra chip on their shoulder in that game.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. All right, before we get to the second game of the night, let me tell everyone about Shady Rays and Shady May. Shady Rays is teaming up with SGPN. For Shady May, not only do you get an amazing 50% off, but you also have a chance to win 500 big ones. Shady Rays has you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much more. Shady Rays have durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. And if you don't love them, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back. So go to shadyrays.com, use promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Then take your receipt, go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500 as part of the Shady May contest. All right, guys, second game of the night. Last night, we saw the Phoenix Suns win on their home floor in Game 3, 121-114, led by their two superstar players, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Devin Booker finished the game last night 20 of 25 from the floor. That's right, 20 of 25 from the floor. He shot 80%, finished the game with 47 points, and that was only off of 2 free throws, which were the last 2 free throws of the game where he got fouled, icing the game for the Phoenix Suns. So an incredible performance from Devin Booker last night. Kevin Durant got off to a slow start. I think he was like 1 of 8 to start the floor, but he adjusted his game, and they really needed him last night. He started attacking the basket. He got to the free throw line, hit some clutch shots in that fourth quarter for the Phoenix Suns. He finished his game with 39 points, 12 of 31 from the floor, 14 of 16 from the free throw line. Did also contribute with 9 rebounds and 8 assists. On the flip side, like Scott mentioned, Jokic finishes up with a massive triple-double, 30 points, 17 rebounds, and 17 assists. Jamal Murray down the stretch, guys, and we'll get into it in a second, but he was gassed. I mean, you could tell there was a timeout that was called around, I think, like 3 minutes left or 4 minutes left, and he had his hands on his knees. He was absolutely gassed, and after that, he put up a couple shots that either were short or he didn't knock down. You could just tell the fatigue was getting to him. But in a desperate situation, the 2 best players for the Phoenix Suns stepped up last night. They combined for 86 of the 121 points last night. I think the bigger conversation for the Phoenix Suns is that they haven't gotten anything from DeAndre Ayton. I don't know who's been worse in this playoffs, or in this second round. Has it been James Harden or has it been DeAndre Ayton? But
it's got to be Ayton because at least Harden had a 45-point game.
Yeah. So, Scott, take us away here. Anything from last night that stuck out to you? Obviously, with the 2 performances from the superstar players, but big win for the Suns last night.
Well, this was another game where even though I might have gotten the result somewhat wrong leaning to Denver, I did think that Phoenix was probably going to win a game in this series, but I didn't really learn much because I said after game 1 that if Phoenix wants to win, they need Booker and KD to probably combine for about 75 points.
Yeah.
And they combined for north of 80. and they won the game. So I didn't really learn anything. I just saw Booker hit a bunch of shots. Durant only went 12 of 31 from the floor, but as you said, he adjusted his style, and he ended up going to the foul line a lot. He was basically the only Phoenix Sun to actually attempt free throws for a decent portion of the game, which was kind of funny. But I didn't learn much. You saw Booker and Durant take over the game. The supporting cast still was not good. Shout out to Jock Landale, though, gave them some good minutes off the bench since they didn't really have Ayton focused, and I think Ayton only scored 4 points in the game. But Landale played well. Maybe he'll get more minutes. Campaign pushed the pace. I know Coach Malone mentioned that in the post-game presser. He didn't exactly shoot the ball well, but at least they played faster with Chris Paul being injured. You know, it's a bad sign when like SVP and the people that are recapping the game are reading off the bench and like, Terrence Ross, 5 points. I'm like, you're really bragging about 5 points right now? Like, that's how bad Phoenix's bench is? That's how bad the bench is. We're bragging about 5 points from any bench scorer. So I didn't really learn much. Now, I thought that Denver would potentially get the job done because I was basically daring Booker and Durant to combine for 75, and they did. Denver didn't play good defense. They let Booker get to his spots. They didn't really contest most of his shots all night, which is why he went 20 of 25 from the floor. I thought they did a decent job on Durant. I know he got to the line, but he still went 12 of 31. You're going to live with that. But for the most part, good win for Phoenix. The Stars showed up for the game. Wasn't surprised to see a little bit of TJ Warren and Terrence Ross either. It took Monty long enough, and then Warren made a couple of big shots down the stretch there late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But when it comes to if I learned anything, I really didn't, because we knew that Booker and Durant have to carry this team by themselves, and they did for one game. So nothing really changed. We'll see if they can duplicate that, or I'd say repeat it another 3 times in this series, because they're going to need to. But I dared Phoenix's supporting cast to show up. They didn't really show up. It was just Booker and Durant carrying the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody expected, right, that they had to have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker have a huge night, and they did last night. And like you mentioned, can they do it for 3 more games against this Denver Nuggets team? I'm not sure. But, I think give credit, like you mentioned, TJ Warren hit some clutch shots down the stretch for the Phoenix Suns, had that corner 3-point shot, and then he had a little floater or a mid-range shot there from the left side that he knocked down as well. He finished the game with 7 points. Liddell, you mentioned it. I mean, he was really good off the bench in place of Ayton last night. He, was able to get some deflections on passes, rebounded well. He had 9 rebounds in 22 minutes. So, I mean, we'll see. It's one game. I think Denver still does win this series. But I think if Phoenix wants a chance, they have to win game 4. I think going down 3-1, going back to Denver, it's not going to be easy task for the Phoenix Suns. But on the flip side, 83 combined points between Michael Porter Jr., Nikola Jokic, and Jamal Murray last night just was not good enough for the Denver Nuggets. But Delonte, anything from last night in this game for you?
Yeah, I give credit to Monty Williams for finally coming to his senses and playing those guys, especially Ross and Warren, because I mean, well, they might not be like much on the defensive end. At least they space the floor and give them more options offensively.
They actually look towards the basket, which is a step in the right direction.
Right. So you got to keep those. So with those guys spread out, at least we seen Ross and Warren in the corners a lot, which means that they can run that small pick and roll with Booker on one side or KD on the other, and they can't trap them, because if they leave one of those guys, they got the attempts. They got great looks. I thought they just didn't make them. So my rule with like great players, especially 2 on the same team, is that one can give you one game and the other can give you another game, and then the supporting cast has to give you 1, and that's 3, and then you got another combined effort to win 1. So Booker, I felt like this was Booker's game to win. I feel like next game will be KD's, although he didn't play well. I thought that he was more assertive going to the rim. They realized that, I think they said on the broadcast also that, I mean, Denver doesn't have any rim protection. So I didn't agree with how Phoenix played in the first 2 games. They weren't attacking Jokic or trying to get him in foul trouble, because he's the only resistance. I mean, obviously he's not the best or even close to a good defender of the rim. So I thought that they just let him off the hook by shooting a lot of jump shots. And I do think that I give the supporting cast some slack, because I think that Booker and KD sometimes dribble the ball or try to create everything for themselves instead of like getting off the ball and getting it back and getting those other guys involved. Now, I mean, the contrast to that would be that those guys weren't producing, which I can get behind. But at least you got to give them a shot. Like Booker for like 4 or 5 possessions in like the second and third quarter, he's dribbling like the whole shot clock. Like that's it. It's just ISO. And I mean, you got to get those guys kind of involved, get them touching the ball, moving around, because if the defense is just set looking at you, obviously it's easier to defend. So I think they got to do a better job of moving the ball and get some of those other guys at least some touches so they can, relocate and get the ball back. But outside of that, I thought Denver's third quarter was incredible. I thought Phoenix was really in trouble when Booker picked up that 4th foul. But outside of that, Scott mentioned it. TJ hit some big shots.
Well, he should have picked up a 5th one earlier. I don't know how that stood as a blocking foul. I thought that was a clear charge.
Yeah,
picked up a 5th foul right after that, but I thought that was a charge on Booker.
Probably just
it's a home-friendly whistle.
Yeah,
it was a very interesting call because Steve Javi actually disagreed with the refs for once.
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen that in my life.
Right. Yeah. So, man, KD got to the line before Booker shot the free throws. He had every single Phoenix Sun free throw attempt, which just goes to show how aggressive he was. See, I love the aggression of both Booker and KD. It's just that I feel like when they collapse, they can kick the ball out and swing it around. Monty has to get off of. He got to do something with Ayton. I don't know what he's going to do. Londale gave him.
They're going to use Lendell more, right? I mean, Ayton. It wasn't even just the bad performance; it was the pouting on the bench. And if you listen to some of the sound bites going around, he was like half arguing with Booker and Durant. He might have left Chris Paul hanging on a high five or something. Like, seems minor, but when you're not playing well and you're kind of being a demonstrative teammate, that's not going to get you more playing time.
No.
Ayton's not giving them anything. Don't you have to try to use Lendell more? Because at least he gave them a spark.
Yeah, I just don't know if Lendell's made to go, north of like 25 to 28 minutes. Maybe he's good in that 15 to 18 minute role in spurts. So I'm not sure if he can start him. But yeah, I mean, Ayton's got to be better. Like that's simple as put. He just has to be better. He's not even giving effort. That's my thing. It's okay to have bad games. I mean, things happen. You have bad games. But you see when KD, I mean, obviously not comparing the talented, but just from a player perspective, KD wasn't shooting the ball well. It started 1 of 7. Couldn't hit nothing. You seen even him, he was holding his head and Monty had to give him a little pep talk. But Ayton's just not even giving enough effort. Like it doesn't take a lot of skill to be able to just at least crash the glass or, fight for a ball. He's just standing watching. I thought Londale gave them a lot of toughness. Even around the basket, I mean, he was fighting for rebounds, making Joker at least work and not having him just grab the ball and put it over like Ayton's a toddler. So, I think he's got to find something with Ayton. But other than that, I mean, I think Phoenix is in a good spot. I think KD has a good game next game, and they even it up at 2-2.
All right. Before we get into the schedule here for tonight, let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Best Ball Mania 4 is here, and Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes, plus plenty of ways to win with NBA, NHL, and MLB with their player prop parlays. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. The Kentucky Derby is today, and the Notorious OTB brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network for all your Triple Crown bets. Plus, leave a review for the show wherever you get your podcasts between now and Belmont Saturday, June the 10th, and you'll be entered into a drawing to win a canvas print of the Wolves' one-of-a-kind Fallen Bob painting. It's post time, and there's still time. We have a bonus contest exclusively on the SGPN app. Winner gets a $100 SGPN gift card today for the Kentucky Derby. All right, guys, let's get into the 2 games here tonight for the NBA playoffs. First game is going to be a 3:30 Eastern start. We've got the New York Knicks. They are in South Beach here tonight to take on the Miami Heat. Miami Heat right now are currently a 4-point home favorite. Total is sitting at 209. Did see the New York Knicks even up the series in game 2 behind Jalen Brunson's incredible performance. Josh Hart had a great game as well. But now the series shifts to Miami. Jimmy Butler is on track to play here today for the Miami Heat. Right now, Heat -4. Scott, why don't you lead us off for this game? What are you thinking about the Knicks and Heat in game 3 here?
I'm going to lean to Miami. personally. Even though the Knicks did win game 2, I would say that I wasn't overly impressed. I feel like I'm not alone on that one, that Miami leading for a decent amount of the game, despite missing basically 3 starters, wasn't exactly an impressive showing for the Knicks. But once again, they got the job done. Maybe some officiating helped out, but that's part of the sport. It is what it is. So I do think with Jimmy Butler being back, Miami, of course, is going to look like the much better team. And I do think at the end of the day, when you're looking at Butler, who seemed to be in good spirits on the bench, and it seems like, according to reports, the ankle sprain wasn't as severe as initially thought. I think he's going to be in line for a pretty good game. Miami supporting cast has been solid so far in the postseason. Mostly Gabe Vincent, who's been very good. Lowry's been solid, especially defensively at times. Martin's been good in spurts. I do think that the supporting cast for Miami has outplayed New York's bench at this point. Kind of a slight dig there by me at Quickly, who has really not played well in the playoffs whatsoever, and he was one of the finalists for Sixth Man of the Year. Josh Hart's a good player, no way around it. I mean, I've mentioned it for several months on this pod, but I do think that Miami, with Butler back, I think they'll be able to come out and take another series lead here. The argument is, well, what if Butler doesn't look great, or maybe he looks a little bit rusty? Maybe it's just the fact that it's Jimmy Butler and he was doing all the nodding and all the villain stuff in MSG. I kind of believe him. Like, I think he's going to play well. I think that he's relatively healthy, but it's mostly just back in Miami at home. The Knicks, I still don't think are a good offensive team. Randall in the playoffs has kind of been out of sorts. Brunson's been up and down, but he had a good game last time out.
Yeah.
I am going to lean to Miami, though. I do think that at home, maybe the crowd won't show up until halftime, but when they do, the atmosphere is going to be good. So I'm going to go with Miami. I think they'll find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can forecast or see the 3-point shooting continuing for the New York Knicks like they had in game 2. You got 6 of 10 from Brunson. Okay, Brunson I think can get it done, but RJ Barrett was 5 of 9 from 3-point line. I know he's been shooting it a little bit better, but
he had like 15 points in the first half, and then the first quarter. He didn't really do anything to rest again.
Yeah. Julius Randle was 3 of 9 as well. So, I do agree with you. I do like Heat here. I like them early as well. First quarter, first half in this game. But Lonte, what do you got for this game? Miami Heat hosting the Knicks in game 3.
Yeah, I love Miami here, laying the 4. Like Scott said, I don't trust the New York offense, especially on the road. So in the road games, they score 101, 90, and 106 against Cleveland. Now, Cleveland, it can be debated that obviously it can't be debated because they were a better defensive team than Miami, but the playoffs are a different thing. And even in those 101 and 106s, it took some late free throws to get them over that number. So they probably were like under 100 in all 3 road games. So I don't trust their offense, especially in the half court. They're not doing anything. He's doing a good job of basically building a wall whenever Brunson has the ball, and they're just trying to make him shoot. Or if he wants to drive, they're trying to make him, finish over guys. The RJ Barrett stuff is interesting. I mean, he's playing as well as I've ever seen him. I guess I stopped betting on him, and then he wants to go off. But I think the Knicks won the free throw battle in game 2, 30-17. I think that will change a lot with Jimmy back, who shoots probably about 10 per game in the playoffs. In game 1, Miami won the free throw battle 29-20. So I think that has a lot to do with how Miami wants to play, especially on the offensive end. Jimmy just when he's like in the game, he just changes a lot of things. In game 1, they didn't have game 2, they didn't have that closer to be able to close the Knicks out, and I thought that was where he was missed the most. Miami's actually turning the ball over, turning the Knicks over, thriving off points off turnovers. They have 22 points off turnovers in both games. Also taking care of the ball, so they're limiting New York's chances to take advantage of their mistakes, like in transition. New York has single-digit points off turnovers in both games. So I think Miami is a great spot here. I wouldn't be surprised if they blow the Knicks out, to be honest.
Yeah, I do. Like I mentioned, I do like Miami here early and often. I think Jimmy could have been out there if he wanted to for game 2, but I think just for precautionary reasons, they held him out. Scott mentioned that he looked like he was in good spirits on the bench there. He was engaged with his teammates. He was standing up, coaching a little bit here and there as well. So, with Jimmy back, I mean, you've got to give a lot of credit to the surrounding players as well. for the Miami Heat, especially in game 2, the way Caleb Martin chipped in with 22 points. Gabe Vincent, continues to be really good for this team as well. Max Strus contributed as well. So, now you get your leader back. Now you get your best player back. I think, they're in a good spot here today, I think, on their home floor to get this job done. So I'm with you guys. Team right here on Miami -4. Let's get over to the total here, 209. Scott, what do you think about the total?
I think I'm going to keep going with the under. Delonte already mentioned that the Knicks on the road so far this postseason have not exactly been great at scoring. I think that once again they'll probably struggle. They've been shooting better from 3 than I thought they would, but some of that was at the end when Josh Hart was literally left wide open on basically 3 straight possessions to hit corner threes. But I'm going to lean to the under. I do think the Heat bring it defensively, especially with Butler being back. We know how good he can be defensively. And I do think that really, until I see the Knicks put together a great showing offensively on the road, I think I'm just going to lean to the unders on them. So I think the Knicks might drag the total down by themselves, but I'm going to lean to the under.
Delonte?
Yeah, I'll lean to the over. Both home games went over in round 1 for Miami. They played with more tempo and they shot decent on the road. I guess they shot 33 and 35% from 3 in New York, but at home in round 1 they shot 41 and 44. So they'll get more open shots from the role players who obviously shoot better at home, and they'll get better looks with Jimmy on the floor. I'm kind of with Scott. I probably won't bet the over. I just lean that way, thinking that at least New York can get to 90, 95, and I think Miami can score, 115, 120-ish at home. So I'll lean to the over. Probably would be better to take a Miami team total over as far as like my handicap of this game goes. So I'll lean over. Definitely would be on the over for the Miami team total.
Yeah, that was the one play I did like was the Miami Heat team total over. They've gone over 106.5 in every game except for one, which was game 2 without Jimmy Butler. They scored 105. But like you mentioned, the 2 home games against Milwaukee, 121, 119. They shot the ball well in those 2 games.
Milwaukee's better defensively too.
Yeah, so I leaned full game under. But if you wanted to play an over, I do think that Miami does at least score 107 points here today in this matchup. Maybe like a 108, 99 type of final. I think that's definitely a possibility here today.
I can see that.
Let's get over to some player props in this game, guys. Delonte, what do you got?
Yeah, I like Duncan Robinson over 1.5 threes. It's at even money. He's over in 4 to 7 playoff games, including 3. He hit 3 in the last game in New York. As long as the minutes are there, I think this is a little bit short. Even in just like 20 minutes played, he had those 3 in game 2. At home, he'll probably be more comfortable, and the attempts will be there. He's averaging about 4.5 attempts per game in the playoffs. I mean, like everything, Butler being back shifts everybody's role back down, so they don't have to do as much. So I'd assume he benefits from the drive and kicks when Jimmy Butler's at the free throw line and the screen and roll. So and some transition threes. So I like him, Duncan Robinson, over 1.5 threes at even money. I like Kevin Love, 14.5 points and rebounds over. I like the spacing he provides on offense when Jimmy's on the floor, but Bam's off. So he's more in that small ball 5 lineup. He seems to always be like open and half court looks, and he rebounded the ball pretty well against the Heat, and against the Knicks, and they'll need him to do that after being out rebounded 50-34 last game. But he was dealing with a little bit of foul trouble. And somehow he still ended up with 14 points plus rebounds. He's been right at the edge of this number in the previous 6 games. So I think this afternoon he gets a near double-double here. So I wouldn't be afraid to sprinkle on a double-double for Kevin Love also. One more, like Josh Hart, under 10.5 points. Scott mentioned the open threes that he got. I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to give him those. He's not shooting the ball well from 3. With Butler back in the lineup, he's likely to be more focused defending and scoring. He went over in the last game due to some late game free throws and the open threes that he had off offensive rebounds. On the road, he's only played 1 solid game and still averaging 8.6 in road games this postseason. I think Miami limits his offensive putback opportunities, which is the reason why they lost in game 2, and they do a better job defending him. And we'll see something similar to what we saw in game 1 with him. So under 10.5 for Josh Hart.
Love it. Couple that I'm on. I'm going to continue riding my guy, Gabe Vincent. He's had at least 4 3-pointers in 3 straight games. He's had at least 4 in the first two games here against the Knicks. He's gone up 12 attempts from 3-point land alone in 3 straight games, exactly 12 actually. And he's really contributive, even with Jimmy in the lineup or without Jimmy in the lineup. It's at 2.5 at -135 for his threes. He's also been getting the assist as well. The numbers I think is at 4.5 is last what I saw for Gabe Vincent. But he's had 5 or more assists in 4 straight playoff games here for the Heat as well. So those were the one that I was looking at. And then also Isaiah Hartenstein to have over half a block or at least get 1 block. That's at -105. I think he's had 1 in 4 straight games. For the New York Knicks, getting those minutes, whether it's behind Julius Randle or Mitchell Robinson, he's making the most of it. He's able to, rebound the basketball. He's able to at least get a block shot in the minutes that he is playing. I know a couple of games against Miami, or in game 1, he only played 14 minutes. And then against the Cavs in the series clinching game, he only played 12 minutes. But 5 straight games, he's had recorded at least 1 block for the New York Knicks. So I'm going to go with that as one of my player props as well here. Scott, what are you looking at for player props?
Yeah, my favorite player prop is going to be Butler rebounds, just simply put. It's at 6.5. The number feels a bit low. We know that he's been more, I'd say, focused on helping the team rebound, especially after that playing game against Atlanta. But looking at the last couple of games for Butler, the only game he's played in this Knicks series, he had 11, had 8 in the final game against Milwaukee, had 9 in the game before that against Milwaukee. 6.5 feels a little bit low. They're going to need him to help out on the boards, and I do think Butler's going to play a lot of minutes. So I'm going to go with Butler rebounds over 6.5. That number feels a little bit conservative.
All right. Let's get over to the second game of the night. It's going to be I think it's either 8 Eastern or 8:30 Eastern. 8:30 Eastern.
It'll start 30 minutes late regardless. That's just how they do it.
Yep.
The Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers. Game 3 in LA tonight. Series tied up at 1-1. We saw the Lakers win game 1. Warriors bounced back very nicely in game 2. Now we head to LA for game 3 here. Currently, I am seeing the line is sitting at -3, excuse me, in favor of the home team, the LA Lakers. Total is at 228. Delonte, lead us off for this game. We have the Lakers 3-point favorite at home against the Warriors.
Yeah, so I'm going to play Golden State here plus the points. LeBron, they wasted a good LeBron effort. He carried the Lakers early, and only help he got was from Rui. I know the talk was about Anthony Davis, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but he's yet to have a back-to-back 20-point game in the playoffs.
Well, that means he is due, though, for about 35.
So that means tonight
18,
he's going to go for like 40 and 20.
Right, so it's going to be one of those things that sportsbooks tweet out and say 99% of the bets are on 80s over, and he'll probably go under. But yeah, I think Golden State unlocked something with that small ball lineup and inserting JaMychal Green into the lineup. And they also did something that they should have been doing the entire playoffs, was letting Steph initiate the offense more. I know they kind of want to preserve him for where he's off the ball more, but I think he exerts less energy when he's actually on the ball versus running around through those screens, and he's giving them more looks. So according to Second Spectrum, 22 pick and rolls ran by Curry as a ball handler in game 1 in 38 minutes. He ran 24 in 30 minutes in the second game, and we saw the outcome of how that looked, especially with his assist total. So I'll get to that later for sure. And I got to give Darvin Ham a little bit of credit for, at least trying some new things on Steph and Clay. It didn't work, but at least he tried something new to give him a different look. One thing I would like to see him do is turn to Beasley and Walker a little more, especially with their ability to shoot and create. And they're not good defensively, but at least they're more physical than with Austin Reeves, because Austin Reeves has struggled in this series so far. I like Golden State here. I think if they're going to get a win, I think it'll be here. Depending on how the Lakers treat this game. I think they're obviously going to come out fired up. I'll be on them in the first quarter. But I'd like Golden State plus the points in the game.
Scott?
I'm really torn on this one because I do expect a much better defensive effort from the Lakers at home, and we've seen how good they are defensively at home so far this postseason. However, the problem that I have is with Golden State going small, I really do think the Lakers have a hard time matching up defensively. And if Clay's going to wake up and shoot this well, I don't think he's going to shoot this well again. I think he's going to shoot fine, but he shot out of his mind in the last game.
Yeah.
The thing that they really can't, I'd say fix is just Curry's impact on every player on the court. And in game one, they had Vanderbilt, who was being a pest, full court pressing him the whole way through, trying to deny him the ball. They didn't do any of that in game two. I think they'll go back to that in game three. But Curry had double-digit assists. He really didn't have to shoot much, and there were guys wide open the entire game. Draymond being the screener helped out a lot, but it was really, whether it was because of illness or because of matchup, benching Looney really did a lot for that team. And the Warriors were able to use their speed advantage to create a lot of mismatches and a lot of openings through the Lakers' defense. I'm hoping AD plays better. Draymond was great defensively in game two. I know that AD wasn't fully engaged, but Draymond still did a great job, even as a rebounder, as a roller to the rim. I thought he was solid. Jermichael Green was great, as you said before. Even though initially I was going to lean to the Lakers, I think I have to take the points with the Warriors, just based on the conflicting styles. I do feel like taking points blindly in a decent amount of these games might be the move, because it's a matter of which style is going to reign supreme when they clash against each other. Golden State just has the three-point shooting, and I feel like they have the spacing. The Lakers offensively still aren't a great shooting team. LeBron was great for a half, and then, of course, the game got ugly and they pulled them. But the problem is, once again, AD, he's 50-50 on if he's actually going to show up offensively or not. Do you like the overall scoring options for the Lakers when it comes to kind of trading twos for threes? Because that strategy is not going to work. And if the Warriors are going to shoot this well, they have no chance. I don't think any team has a chance if they shoot that well from three.
Yeah, the thing with me is I don't think the Warriors had a good game. I mean, I think they had a good individual game from Clay, and Draymond played well. Like, you know, obviously his stuff is not going to show up in the stat sheet, but like what he does defensively and how he anchors the defense has a lot to do with that. But I mean, I'm afraid for the Lakers that, you know, Steph is going to have his patent game. Like, so I don't know. Like, he didn't play well. He played well. I mean, passing the ball and distributing. But
well, the game plan was we're not letting Curry beat us. And he's like, all right, I'll get 12 assists. Like, it's not a big deal.
But at some point, it's gonna break. The back's gonna break, and they're not gonna be able to handle it. Curry's gonna get him his looks. He's gonna get him his looks. So I'm worried that the Lakers aren't disciplined enough to be able to handle him for this whole series. So I think Steph might have a big game tonight. I don't know what you think, Munaf.
Yeah, I think that if you kind of go back to game two and you take a look at the box score, right, they were 21 of 42 from 3-point land. Jermichael Green, 3 of 6. He played 13 minutes. I don't think that's going to happen again. But I think it's going to come to a point where the Lakers defense is going to have to do a better job of closing out on these 3-point shooters. I mean, like Scott mentioned, it's like you're trading threes for twos, and that was the case in game one as well. But the Lakers got enough stops for them to win that game and pull it out in game one. So I think for game three, we're waiting for that Steph Curry game. And I think we have a lot more, you know, guys, because it turned into a blowout. A lot of games, or a lot of the players didn't play heavy minutes, right? Like
right,
33 minutes, LeBron 28. But even on the Golden State Warriors side, 30 minutes for Steph Curry. No starter played more than 31 minutes. Klay Thompson played 31. So I expect to see some type of shooting regression from Klay Thompson as well. I mean, like Scott said, he's he made 6 in the first game, and then 8 of 11 in game two.
Look for another 6-piece, man. My guy Klay. I was trying to tell Scott about Klay this series, man.
But also, like, we saw that the Lakers are double teaming Steph Curry, especially down the stretch in the fourth quarter. I mean, we saw it early because the game was really out of hand in that third quarter. But they were like, okay, make somebody else beat you right now for at least game 1 and 2, or at least game 2 in particular. When they did one, it was Klay, like, you know, Delonte mentioned. So I think it's going to be a interesting defensive strategy on what Lakers do, because like Scott mentioned, like, there's different type of lineups that the Golden State Warriors can throw at you to propel them to win these games and possibly win the series. But I think you'll get a better game here tonight from Anthony Davis for sure. You know, we've talked about it on the pod that he has one great game, he has one bad game, and the next game he has an incredible game. And again, like I mentioned, no heavy minutes were played, so I'm expecting a big game here out of AD here tonight, and LeBron as well. LeBron, sure, 23 points, but you know, we're we're capable of him scoring 30 to 35 points if he needs to. But I've been a proponent of this since Lakers made the trade, especially in the playoffs, that they've had guys step up in the playoffs. Rui Hachimura, 21 points in game 2. So it's more on the defensive side of what adjustments Darvin Ham and that team makes for this team to combat kind of the 3-point scoring or shooting of the Golden State Warriors. So I'm leaning here with the Warriors as well. I think that Scott's right that I think the Lakers come out in the first half and then we see a typical Warriors third quarter and then they maybe pull away in the fourth quarter or do at least get the outright victory here. So I'm going to take the points here as well. I don't love it at +3, but let's get over to the total here, guys. That number is currently sitting at 228. Scott, what do you got for the total?
For me, I think I'm going to lean to the under. I don't feel great about the total. I know it technically went under in game 2, even though that really just should have gone over easily. I have to assume the Lakers go back to some of their roots when it comes to just defensive ideas, because in game 1, they were very active with trying to make Golden State go a full 90 feet. And it seemed like in game 2, they were letting Curry dribble the ball up. There was no resistance. They were getting to whatever spot they want. The Lakers have to make the game ugly. They can't just have a voluntary up and down, fun, fast-paced game with the Warriors because they're going to kill them if they do. So I see the Lakers really having Vanderbilt try to deny ball on inbounds. I think they'll try to slow down Golden State. The Lakers offensively are probably going to play mostly in the half court. I'm going to lean to the under. I just think that the Lakers, the main adjustment they're going to have to make is really trying to slow the pace down. And it felt like Golden State was really just dominating the tone and the overall tempo of the game as soon as it started. I'm going to lean to the under. I'm going to hope that the Lakers make some adjustments and really try to slow down Golden State. That should be the main focus or objective for them in this game. I'm going to lean to the under. I'm hoping for a bit more of a rock fight or more of a physical battle than it was in game 2. So I'm going to lean to the under.
Fair enough. Delonte, total.
Yeah, I pretty much echo everything Scott just said. I think the Lakers have to slow down the pace. They can't run with Golden State in transition. They just don't have the guys to be able to be disciplined enough or capable of guarding for the entire shot clock to be able to withstand some of the things that Golden State does. I thought that Golden State pushed that pace in the first game at the end when they made that comeback, and they just rolled that over in the game 2 and just continue to push in transition as much as they could. 3 of the last 4 playoff games, or home playoff games, including the play-in, have went under for the Lakers. So it's obvious they're an under team at home. I think they come out play a little bit better defensively. Some shooting regression could be coming for Golden State. So I think that the Lakers try to pound the ball into AD, slow these guys down, get them in foul trouble. We've seen Steph have both. Was he in foul trouble in both games? If I'm not mistaken, I know it for sure was in one game. But
game 2, he finished up with.
Game 2, he had some foul trouble. Game 1,
he only had 3.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I think he got into early foul trouble.
Yeah, okay, that's what it was.
It kind of calmed down after that, but he still had to go to the bench for a decent amount in the first half.
What I'm thinking of. That's what I'm thinking about. Yeah, but I think that we're trying to put him in pick and rolls to make him defend. He's doing a decent job defending. But yeah, I think the under is going to be a good look here, especially with the Lakers trying to dictate that pace.
All right. Yeah, I didn't have much for the total here. I'd probably look at a first half under, especially with the Lakers at home, like Delonte mentioned. And typically they've been an under team as well at home. So, and this number's spot on. I mean, we saw game 1 finish with 229 points, game 2, 227. I know there's only like 2 points scored in like the final 4 minutes, some change in game 2, but I mean, this number seems pretty much spot on for this total. Let's go to some player props in this game here. Scott, lead us off. If you have any player props that you like for this game.
Do I dare trust Anthony Davis? That's really the question.
At least rebounds, I think.
I hope so, because once again, Looney, either for illness purposes or just based on a lineup matchup, Looney probably shouldn't play as much. So AD should have a lot of rebounding opportunities. I think I'm just going to go with LeBron points. I feel like he definitely showed that the Warriors once again have an issue guarding him. Game 1, I thought that he was a little bit passive, even though they won the game anyway because AD was so dominant. Game 2, LeBron was on pace for a classic 35-point game. The problem was the game turned into a blowout, and at that point, I could tell the mental focus wasn't there. LeBron started yelling at every call for the officials. Like I could tell LeBron just wasn't fully focused, and
Down
he
30,
really
he wants
shouldn't
to
have been. The
foul.
game was over. But I'm gonna look at LeBron over in points. He still had what, like 21 points in the first half of game 2?
Yeah.
I think he had like 14 in the first quarter.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he's gonna have to show up for this game because I don't know if he can fully rely on AD again. But LeBron is always going to be a matchup problem, even at this stage in his career. And I do think at the end of the day, you're looking at his point total, which I think might be a little bit low. I think it might be one of those games where you might actually benefit from the game flow in game 2, because you're going to look at the numbers and go, oh, LeBron only had 23 points. Well, kinda. I mean, he was on pace for like 30-something, and then the game got ugly, and he didn't play the fourth quarter. So it might be a good opportunity to actually capitalize on a low line because of the misleading final score line of LeBron in game 2. But LeBron's player props 26.5. I think he's in line for a 30-piece tonight. I'm going to look at LeBron over. I do think that he showed in game 2 that Golden State's going to still have some hard times actually guarding him. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to call it a must-win game for the Lakers, but I do expect LeBron to show up and show out in this game. I'm going to lean to LeBron over, but it's mostly because I also just can't trust Anthony Davis. So I'm hoping LeBron is a bit more aggressive and maybe takes matters into his own hands.
Fair enough. Delonte, player props?
Yeah, so I like 3 player props tonight. Well, 2, I'm sorry. So I like Vanderbilt over a half made 3. That is,
he keeps chucking them.
Yeah, that's reduced at 105, so some pretty good odds. You probably can get, if you want to bet 1+, probably can get plus money on that, probably plus 115-ish if my math is correct. I mean, he's getting wide open looks. He's went over in 3 straight games. He's shooting around 3 per game in round 1. But he's getting the looks, and I think that at home he'll be able to knock them down. They're going to leave him open, so like the attempts are going to be there. It's just a matter of if he wants to shoot them. So I think he'll have a lot of opportunities to shoot and make one. I think he can go 1 of 3 or 1 of 4 if the opportunity presents itself. Sorry to do this to you, Munaf, but I'm going back to our guy Andrew Wiggins. He let us down in game 2. In the first quarter, I seen his body language and I knew it was over. He attempted 2 shots, and I think both of those were like putback rebounds, so they're technically not shots, but they counted in the box score. He just didn't have it. And that's one of the reasons why they lost game 1. He just didn't have it. He came on late in game 2, but I think this game 3 is going to be pivotal for them. I think he has to play a big role. So I'm over 22.5 points and rebounds with him. He's over in 6 of the 9 playoff games. Ironically, he's played better on the road. 23.8 points and rebounds at home. 23.8 rebounds and points on the road versus 21.8 points and rebounds at home. So going small helps his rebounding, like we discussed when I think it was on Thursday. And he should be more aggressive trying to score. Didn't score in the first quarter and was being passive early on. Generally performs well against LA, but he just failed to do so at home. I think he puts his impress on his game, and could be a sneaky double pick also. So I like Andrew Wiggins over 22.5 points and rebounds.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of player props that stuck out to me here. I do think Anthony Davis does bounce back here. His points and rebounds are at 38.5 here for tonight. I want to get behind Rui Hachimura some way, but just his minutes distribution has just been it's been up and down. I mean, he usually plays about 22 minutes per game, 21 minutes per game. Game 1, he only played 11.
Really good in game 2.
Yeah, he only played 11 minutes in game 2. I don't know why, in game 1. I don't know why he's not getting more minutes. But I think I'm gonna have to wait on that one. But I think Anthony Davis was the only one that really stuck out to me for at least his points and rebounds here today.
There was one more prop that I was going to take that I forgot to mention before. Give me the pool under for points. I can't.
He only played 16 minutes in game 2. I mean, there was a blowout as well, but I think his minutes are definitely going down.
Well, he also had 5 fouls.
Yeah,
and a couple of them were offensive. There were, I think, 2 separate occasions in the game he checked into the game and picked up an offensive foul in the first possession. I think it happened twice in game 2, where he was on the court for less than 10 seconds and he just shoved somebody and got an offensive foul on 2 occasions. I mean, I feel like I've slandered Poole a lot in the playoffs, and it's been warranted. He was very good in game 1. Then he ruined it with that shot at the end. And then game 2, you could tell he clearly was just not serious, and he was kind of just messing around. At some point, I'm worried Kerr's just going to slap him, because like he's driving them crazy. Like I don't know how you're supposed to rely on this guy on a game in game out basis. He just does so many dumb things. He also can't guard anybody. So in addition to the foul trouble that he got himself into with some offensive fouls, he's giving up free back cuts all the time, and he's losing his assignment all the time. Golden State at some point is going to tell him, like, we can't use you. I know that he gives them 3-point upside and he helps the bench scoring out, but at the end of the day, if you're not going to give much offensively on a regular basis, and we know for a fact you can't guard anybody, I got to question his minutes. And I do think it's extremely concerning for Poole, especially when he barely plays in game 2, has no impact, and Golden State still dominates because DiVincenzo and some of the other guys stepped up off the bench. I just think that Poole's minutes might be reduced. I don't trust the shooting as well. Give me the under. His point total's at what, 14.5?
Yeah, I think that's low, man.
Really? You think that's low?
Man, because listen, you were underestimating the power of the women that are going to be at this LA game. They're probably on Melrose and Rodeo right now.
Well, that was the main takeaway. That was one of the underrated takeaways, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. For game 2, it was either the baddie theory is a myth or Zendaya is actually mid. And some people have to discuss which is the case because Poole no-showed and Zendaya was in the crowd. That's a separate, topic of conversation.
I think he knew he had no shot at her, so he didn't
just
perform
saying,
well.
Just saying.
In LA, I think
Zendaya being there might have resulted in a couple of conclusions. One of them might be the baddie theory not actually being a thing.
It's gonna be put to the test tonight for sure.
Okay.
Oh God. Poole hasn't gone. I mean, he's gone over. What was it 14.5? And well, I mean, he did it in Sacramento, but that was a completely different series where the pace was just ridiculous in that game. Did have 21 in game 1 against the Lakers, but I mean, I think if there was a foul prop, man, we would just take the over on that every single day for.
I would. I think the turnovers. He had 2 offensive foul turnovers without the ball.
But, yeah, but surprisingly, his turnovers he hasn't had more than 2 in the playoffs thus far. It's really been it's like he's getting only 1, but again, the minutes aren't as heavy as she was playing during the regular season as well. So, all right, let's get over to our lock and dog for this Saturday schedule. Scott, why don't you lead us off?
All right. So for my lock, I'm just going to go back to what I think the game flow is going to be in game 3 of that Knicks game. I'm going to go with the Knicks team total under. They have not been particularly good on the road offensively. Yes, I know they won a couple road games against Cleveland, but the offense still wasn't great. Miami gets Butler back. We know that he's one of their better defensive players. The Knicks shot the ball well, at least better than we thought they would in the latter stages of game 2. Do you have to just toss out game 2 in a way because just Butler wasn't there? Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to take away anything from the Knicks with Butler not being in the lineup for Miami. But in game 1, we saw the Knicks get off to a really good start in the first quarter. And then offensively, they looked like they were in quicksand for the final 3 quarters. So I'm going to go with the Knicks team total under. I think Miami brings it defensively, especially at home. And I think you're going to end up seeing the Knicks struggle to put the ball in the basket for a decent amount of this game. Brogdon was really good in game 2. I think you'll see some regression there. Randall, I'm still not sure if I fully trust him or not. But the Knicks team total right now is 102.5, which sounds low, but I think it's low for a good reason. I'm going to take the Knicks team total under 102.5 as my lock.
Okay. And your dog?
My dog is going to be, I'm trying to think if I want to take Golden State on the money line, which I'm tempted by because I do think matchup-wise they might have found something in game 2. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm not going to bother stalling that much. Give me the Warriors money line. I wanted to make a case for the Lakers. I think initially in the series, I had the Lakers in 6, just because I like their supporting cast more and their consistency. But going small really just changed everything for Golden State. And once again, we're relying on Anthony Davis to show up because it's every other game. But there's always the chance AD just isn't mentally there because he's being dragged out to guard pick and rolls. Draymond gets downhill. The Lakers are going to trade 2s for 3s, and that's a really dangerous recipe. And I roasted Philly for doing the same thing against Boston about a day or 2 ago. So I'm going to keep the same energy. I'm going to take the Warriors money line. I just think that the Lakers have a hard time matching up with this team. Darvin Ham, I know he made some adjustments or he's capable of it, but I'm not sure if that's going to work out because Kerr's going to make adjustments too. Give me Golden State money line. I'm going to have faith in Curry having a very solid game, and I do have questions about the Lakers supporting cast or even just their defensive integrity in this game. I'm going to lean to Golden State as my dog.
All right. Delonte, what do you got?
Yeah, so for the lock, I'm going with the Lakers laying 1 in the first quarter. They are plus 43 in the first quarter at home. And also that
even in game 2, that was the only quarter they won.
Yeah. If you filter out the 35-9 Memphis first quarter, they're still plus 17. They were plus 5 in the Golden State series in Golden State. So after that second half effort, I guess the third quarter effort, I would expect some urgency early on from the Lakers, and they come out with a little bit more fire under them. So I love that play. I was going to go somewhere else with my lock. Munaf, if you could find me a Jordan Poole 20+, what can I get for that?
I know it was 6-1 in game 1. That's not going to happen again. It's probably going to be close to like 3-1.
I cashed that. Plus 550. Yeah, plus 550.
I'm assuming it's going to be close to 3-1, but let me pull it up.
Poole, I don't see him listed at DraftKings. Let me try.
See. I didn't see it on DraftKings.
Poole is 4-1.
Yeah, give me that as my big dog. Small dog, I'll go with Duncan Robinson over 1.5 threes. That's still an even money. So got 2.
By the way, I didn't mention the Warriors money line. I'll take it plus 135.
All right.
So I'm going with the Jordan Poole baddie lock of the night.
There you go. All right. For my lock, I'm gonna go with Heat in the first half. Currently see that number at -2. I don't think get off to a bit of a slow start in the first quarters. But second quarter, they've been really good. I think that's where the depth really does come in for this Miami Heat team. And again, we talk about in-game adjustments. Coach Spo is the best, if not one of the best, that gets that done. And I think they come out and play well in the first half at home. What you talked about, you get Jimmy Butler back. Your role players, their gameplay is elevated a little bit more at home, knocking down shots and things like that. So I think the Heat come out and play well, at least in the first half. I know we like a full game as well, but -2 in the first half for me as my lock. For my dog, I'm just going to do a same game parlay in that Knicks Heat game. So Isaiah Hartenstein to have 1 block, Gabe Vincent 3 or more 3-pointers, and then Gabe Vincent 5 or more assists. That comes out to plus 650. Vincent has just been really good over the last 3 games for the Miami Heat. Like I mentioned, he's getting up exactly 12 3-point attempts in all 3 of the last 3 games in the playoffs. He's done it in both games against the New York Knicks. In the first 2 games of this series, he's knocked down at least 4, I believe, in 3 straight games as well. He's also getting the assists done, and the minutes are there for him as well. So been a huge Gabe Vincent guy this postseason, like I mentioned, with Isaiah Hartenstein. When he does come in, 5 straight games, he's at least recorded 1 block for the New York Knicks in the playoffs. So all 3 of those come out to plus 650. So that's Gabe Vincent, 5 or more assists, Gabe Vincent, 3 or more 3 or more 3-pointers, and Isaiah Hartenstein at least to have 1 block shot, plus 650. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast. 2 games on the Saturday schedule here. Scott, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here, buddy?
Not really. Looking forward to the games tonight. Looking forward to, pretty busy day in sports. You have a title fight in the UFC. You have some horse racing. I know FanDuel's giving out a $20 free bet. I can't wait to lose those $20, but at least it's free. Besides that, though, looking forward to the sports day and sports weekend in general. Should be fun.
Delonte, anything else?
That's it, man. I hope those baddies getting ready to go see my guy Jordan Poole put up 25 tonight.
Jessica Alba probably not going to be in attendance.
Oh, man.
I really like how the gravity of Poole's baddie theory resulted in people pretending that Alba was in a different part of the country than she actually was.
She was in New York, and I think
she was in New York, and everyone's like, she was courtside at the Lakers. Yeah, like, no, she wasn't. She was actually on the other side of the country, about 3 time zones away. But
All right, guys. Make sure to subscribe to the NBA Gambling Podcast YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button for us before you guys get out of here. It really helps us grow the show on YouTube as well. If you're listening on your podcast player, if you haven't already left us a rating and review, please do so. It really helps us grow the show and make us look good as well. Terrell and Lante will be back for you at some point for 2 games tomorrow in the NBA playoffs, and then we will resume as usual next week for the NBA playoffs. All right, good luck with your bets here tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.